everyone, family. We are here today
with our new cups.
Our new cup. Oh, it's
there. I can't turn it. Right there. My name is Christy.
Sarah, and we are the Book Bar Authors. We have a very exciting guest today. His name is RJ, and we are going to play our video of him first, and then he will be on the chat with us. So let's see that.
Roll that beautiful. For whatever reason, Sarah loves that sound effect. Welcome, RJ Rose. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I actually sleep much better than the past few months now, so that's a surprise. I was very much worried about this interview because I'm a little camera shy and stuff, so I'm sorry about that.
No, we'll be fine. We'll go easy on you.
Yes.
But it also might have something to do with finishing those revisions of your prized possession.
Yes. I finished that earlier this morning. I am going to look through it one more time, make sure, if there's anything I want to add or change, then I can do that before I send it off. But, of course, I ran into the one issue of trying to delete words, and instead I added words. So
they're important.
Yeah,
words
they're necessary. They're necessary to the story. That's going to be your argument. Just tell her that's your argument.
Yep.
So, speaking of, how much of the book can you tell us about? We are on Pins and Needles.
Well, I'm going to read your famous,
this is it.
retweeted that I printed out tweets that got you so much attention. It was a mix of Stranger Things and Hunger Games, which is a super fun combo. And is it
Brie?
Brie? Is that
Bry?
I was going to say Bry.
Like Bryson.
Bry, along with 5 other teens, must solve riddles. We love riddles.
Mm-hmm.
In an area full of monsters, of spirits to free their loved ones' souls. But fraught team dynamics makes them competitive in a team-based game that has never had a survivor.
I mean, because it doesn't get much better than that. Right there. This is, one of my favorite movies is Gladiator, and so all I see is all my favorite things. I'm a big Halloween girl, so all of these monsters just plopped right into the middle.
And no survivors. And they're just going to eat them up.
I feel some scandal and betrayal.
Mm-hmm. We love riddles so much.
So tell us a little bit more about whatever you can. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, this book is literally a combination of everything that I love in life, pretty much, as well as the things I'm most afraid of. So I wanted to have the perfect blend of all of these things into one book because, of course, this book didn't really, exist out there, so I figured I'd write it. So, of course, my favorite things are monsters and ghosts, and I've always been into, paranormal stories and, just the whole
I knew we'd be friends.
I'm like,
so
give me Hallmark movies.
It also is about, found family as well as, strong sibling relationships. Because I am the oldest of 5, so
wow.
Is that why you have 5?
Yeah.
Are you taking out members of your family?
So pieces of my own actual life has been put into this story.
Those are the best ones.
So essentially, the story starts off with him, coming to terms with, not having his sister anymore. So like he's grieving over that. It's like a year has gone by, and he's hoping that he can bring her home, because essentially her soul is trapped in this place. So every year, 6 people are chosen to have the chance to free these souls. So he's hoping that he's able to free his sister. So that's where the whole sibling relationship comes through in the book. And I've also added in, apart from monsters and ghosts, it has riddles, it has like robots, tech, and it has a whole bunch of, all the things that I love. Because, I grew up reading these kinds of books specifically where it's like having to deal with arena-based settings or a ghost or a monster or a creature. These books always had like one of those elements, maybe 2. So I figured I'd write a book that has all of these things together, and then just tie in, the strongest themes that I like most, which is about family as well as found family, and about like facing your fears and overcoming your past and not letting it, hold you down from a future that you can create for yourself. Because that's kind of something that I struggled with in my own life. So part of this book is not just Bry's story, but it's also my story.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what kind of monsters do you have?
Some monsters are like half and half. So you have like a blend between, like a mole rat and like a crocodile, or you'll have like a snake, like a spider, or an octopus and a spider, and like all these different, creatures. And some things I literally just had to like just think and pull from my own imagination and my dreams, and like stuff that I've seen as a kid, I guess you can say, and just give them like their own personality and history. So these aren't just like random monsters and spirits and ghosts. As you read the actual book, you start to learn about the history of that monster or ghost. So it's not just thrown in there just to scare you or just to entertain you. Like you might find yourself getting attached to some of these creatures that they come across, because although some of them are benevolent and dangerous, there are some monsters and spirits in there who actually care about humanity itself and are actually there to stop him from reaching his goal, but sometimes help him. So
That's awesome.
Well, and I just want to say that I appreciate this, because by day I'm a teacher in middle school, and what I don't have enough of are stories that feature a male character into spooky situations, because the kids, what do you have that's scary, Miss T? What do you have that's scary? And I have some stuff, but I don't have enough, and a lot of it has to do with like a female character, or a whole bunch of stuff, or a group of kids or whatever, but not a lot focuses on just a male character. So thank you. And I will get them excited for this. I know it might be a couple years before they do, but I'll deliver your book personally to them in junior high. I can't wait to do it. So how long did you work on this book?
I started this book, or I finished this book last September, so it took me about 6 months. So I started it around like last March, I want to say. Yeah, so it took me about 6 months to get like the rough draft done, which for me is actually pretty slow. I usually write rough drafts in a matter of like 6 to 8 weeks almost, and then it takes me a very long time to actually edit. So ever since last September, pretty much, I guess you can say, until now, I've been editing and revising it like crazy. So, yeah.
How many books have you written?
I have 6 others.
6
so
others.
One of them, yeah.
So you're ready. Like, there's just going to be one right after the other on the shelf in Barnes & Noble. There you go. Are they all about monsters?
Most of them do. Yeah. But some of them all have like this atmospheric, creepy vibe to them. Like all of them do share in that, as well as like found family as well. So there are like some themes of those books that they share with the others, but each have their own specific and unique story. Most of them do deal with teens, a group of teens coming together up against something, whether it's themselves, whether it's the world, whether, a whole bunch of things. But I have this bad habit of writing rough drafts and then putting them away and saying I'm going to go back and edit them. And then I end up writing another rough draft of another series, and then I put that away, and then instead of going back to that first book, I end up writing another one. So that's so even though all those books,
things in your head.
The whole concept of writing a book and setting it aside is very good. But yeah, going back to it's also incredibly important.
Yeah, I can relate. I get you. I get it.
So going back to when this tweet happened, and you got all these retweets, and you had all of these agents coming at you, like what was your mindset there? And then like, how'd you get to where you are right now? Like, what was the process between that time and talking to the agents that hearted, your pitch and all that kind of stuff?
And your emotional journey as well.
Yeah.
Well, a few days, actually about a week before I decided that I was going to actually do Pit Mad, I was already battling with whether or not I actually wanted to keep writing. So I figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there, that I was already on the verge of getting ready to set it aside and rethink maybe there might be a different career path for me. I've struggled a lot throughout my lifetime, but anyway, I'll get to that. But anyway, when I actually decided to do Pit Mad, I ended up meeting like a bunch of different writer friends, agented friends, unagented friends, and all of them helped me like strengthen this pitch. So I wasn't expecting to really get any type of attention because the past manuscript that I tried doing pitches and queries, I couldn't get a request. I couldn't get anything, any type of likes. So I wasn't really expecting much out of this one. I thought it was going to be the same thing. But then once, Pit Mad came and I pitched, I was kind of in a disbelief at how quickly everything just started like picking up in terms of likes and retweets and, and I'm like, okay, well maybe the likes are just, I didn't look at it at first because I told myself at least for like the first hour, I'm not going to look at it. Because if I get a like, I'm going to get my hopes up, open it up, and it's going to be someone I know. I'm just like, oh, you like the tweet. I thought it was an agent.
Yeah, right?
My phone,
rules, people.
But then my phone just kept going off like crazy. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what, like this never happened before. So then I finally look, and I'm seeing, some people liking it, but then I seen agents liking them. So I was kind of like in disbelief. Like I literally had to put my phone down for a second. I was just like, no, there's no way I got an agent. Like I don't get agent likes. That doesn't happen to me.
You got agent likes.
And then it just kept going and it kept going. And then I started getting like messages from my friends like, hey, your tweet is like, it's going nuts. Aren't you excited? I'm just like, I still can't believe this is happening right now. Like I'm still stuck like in disbelief. Like, nah, that's not my tweet.
Yeah.
And then throughout the entire day, it was just this overwhelming, like my heart was just like the anxiety and the rush, like this tingling in my fingers, it just wouldn't stop. And it was just like, I just had to get like, pen and paper, start writing this stuff down. I had to like focus and just like, okay, I gotta write all these down. And, I started, messaging people, like my phone was just, it was just a whirlwind of emotions. Mm-hmm. So once I started the process of sending out the requested materials to these agents, I started, researching all of them and seeing who can I see myself working with and who I didn't quite feel I wasn't exactly a match, to, separate them between who I knew that I wanted to work with and who I probably wouldn't send. So once I started sending out requested materials, and it seemed like very quickly some of the agents were getting back within a matter of from a few hours to days, and then over the course of the month, full requests were coming in, and that whole thing kind of like made me break down. So I had to, I cried my eyes out. I just couldn't believe it. Because it wasn't like just that moment I was thinking about that I was happy about. I was thinking about all the moments that brought me to, that exact moment of finally feeling like, I'm being acknowledged for something that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. And it's not just me anymore who likes this work. It's like someone else likes this work and they want it. Yeah. So, and then I hit like this plateau where once all the full requests were out, and then I had like some of the rejections that came in. Even with those fulls out, the rejections still hurt. Mm-hmm. So that kind of threw me off because I didn't think I wasn't prepared for that. And normally when I receive a rejection, like on a past manuscript, it's like one rejection, and then maybe, next week it'll be like one or two rejections. But with PitMad, it was like once you get a certain amount of requests, in one day you can get 6 agents rejecting you.
Oh, wow.
And then it just feels like, wow, like that definitely hurts 7 times as much. It was like I wasn't prepared for the mass rejections that come through. That's when the discouragement started coming back. And like I said, I ended up hitting that plateau where it got really, really quiet and the full requests were out. And then I started feeling that old sense like, okay, maybe I just have a good premise, but my writing is crap. Mm-hmm. So I was really expecting it. But then I received my first offer, and then everything just started looking up again. So that's where the whole roller coaster of emotions started going up, down, and it felt like it was never ending. And after that, one full, I had got another, and then another, and then another, and then that's when I really felt like I accomplished something. Because looking back in the past, I've been through so much, like, not just in my personal life, but publishing wise. I had a past experience in publishing that wasn't, something that I really like to think about too much. So that's what really became the motivation to me trying to find an agent. It's important that you research who wants your work and, don't confuse your determination with desperation, basically. I was desperate to get published in the past, and that desperation led to a long, painful process in publishing. But it did also lead me to being motivated to find my agent. So I would say with regards to PitMad, that's it. It made me now, basically, in a sense. So it made me who I am today. It reminded me of who I was, and it made me reflect on who I want to be going forward in terms of helping other writers get their agents, helping my friends get their agents, because I don't just work on my own stuff. Even when I'm busy, I still try and check in with my friends who I message on the side with regards to writing, and I still try and help them, because it's like I have so many writer friends who don't have an agent, and I almost feel like they deserve one more than I do, especially when I look at their writing ability. Apart from knowing them personally, like there are so many writers who don't have agents right now, and I've read their writing, and I'm just like, like I don't know how I got an agent. Like you will get your agent. Like there are so many great writers. So I think a lot of people confuse the fact that if you have an agent that makes you a better writer than so-and-so. Like, no, not at all.
No,
it does not mean you're a better writer than someone without one, because there are many better writers than me that I know personally that I know are going to have very successful careers.
Yeah. I don't think more true words have ever been spoken. Thank you for that. What inspired you to even start writing in the first place?
Well, at a very, very young age, I got into reading books like the Bailey School Kids series. So those books I loved because it was always about monsters, as well as like Goosebumps. So there was like this one specific one called Monsters Don't Scuba Dive.
Nice.
I always read that book. So I always loved the idea of monsters. But it was crazy because even though I liked monsters, you would think I would be afraid of the monster, but I was more so afraid of the fact of the water, like swimming, because I didn't know how to swim. So I was afraid of the wrong thing at the time, but of course it ended up turning out to the kind of writer I am. So, but I was always reading Goosebumps, the Bailey School Kids. My grandmother had me watching Twilight Zone, so that's what really got me into.
Yeah, Grandma.
Twilight Zone taught me structure, like short stories and stuff. So Twilight got me into writing short stories, which I feel like short stories taught me about, structure, like plot and all of that. Apart from Baylor School Kids, Goosebumps, Twilight Zone, I read books by like Orson Scott Card. Gary Paulson, my favorite book of all time is the Transsoul Saga. I read that book all the time. That is my absolute favorite book. Aside from that, I was always just in love with like, storytelling in general, whether it was the story of like the plot of a movie or, books. I just enjoyed it. And eventually, all throughout middle and high school, I actually struggled. And part of the reason wasn't because I wasn't, a bad student per se. It was more like instead of taking notes, I was writing fan fiction in a notebook. So, so that's pretty much how my story began.
If you were in my class, I'd let it slide since I teach English. But science teacher, though, she's a stickler.
I love science. I didn't like math.
We share this. Who does? It's funny, though, because for a bit I became a math teacher, and I hate math. Crazy, right? Well, talk to us about your process, because I see some things on Twitter where you're trying to, help motivate the rest of the authors of the world. Everybody struggles to find time, space, whatever. But talk to us about your daily process, or is it even daily, just your process in general.
Okay. I do have a daily process. I usually try, first thing is I had to teach myself how to wake up early.
Oh, so you're an early morning. See, I'm a late night. I'm like texting her at like midnight. I'm like, hey, and she's texting me at 5 a.m. and I'm like, what?
Yeah. What time do you wake up?
7.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes like
I win.
After Pit Mat. Pre-Pit Mat, I was getting up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. I had to get it out the way as early as possible because I was also working at the time, and I had to be at work, at like 10 o'clock, and I was afraid if I ever got too tired from being at work, I wouldn't go home and write, which happens sometimes.
Yes.
But usually my daily process is I'm getting up early, starting my coffee, of course. But before I even dive into my actual work, I like to try and get my mind ready for it. So sometimes I go on YouTube and I listen to speeches by either like Will Smith, Denzel Washington, or other people who basically try and motivate people to, achieve their goals and dreams. So I listen to that, and it kind of like, it's very enlightening and inspiring and uplifting. So that kind of helps wake me up, kind of like, coffee. So it's basically coffee for my brain. I'm not listening to those speeches to get myself into the writing gear. Then I usually play the song that I feel fits my work in progress, and I just listen to it. Just kind of shut my eyes, listen to it, and try and feel myself actually diving into this book, actually being a part of the world. Because I feel like the more that my mind feels like it's in tune with the story before I start, the better I can work on it. So that's how I at least get myself into gear with actually doing it. I may spend like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Some days I can go much longer than that. And then there are, of course, some days where I feel like I can't focus and I can't even write. So on those days, I don't really take it as a loss. I just feel like, that's just part of the process as well.
Yeah.
Not every day you're going to be able to even get up early. Some days, I do have those days where I have to sleep in another hour or so. So that's pretty much my process. So depending on how good I feel, depends on how long I work. I like to just, let the words go and try not to look back and edit or anything.
With your current agent now, what's been like the editing process that she's walked you through? Has she kind of just been like, here's a little, I want you to do da-da-da. I mean, you said word count, but like, has she really like taken it page by page, or is it kind of like an overall theme of things that need to be kind of changed a little bit or tweaked?
So I feel like the moment that we had the call, I am going to say I felt like Heather Cashman was my agent already. I felt like we were already working together. She had already provided like some suggestions in terms of revisions. plenty of which I agreed with, and some that she mentioned I actually already had planned and was going to bring it up to her, but the fact that she said it first, I was just like, oh, okay. We had the same vision for the book. Exactly. So after I accepted her offer, the first thing that she had me do was basically create a chapter by chapter like synopsis. So I don't really like synopsis.
Bless your heart.
Yeah.
That's all we have to say about that. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. How did that go?
I will say at first I was kind of just like, oh no, but then she's like, I do have a reason for this. And then once I started working on the chapter synopsis of each chapter, I started feeling more confident about the book, but I started seeing things that actually did need some changing. And we used that as like the first sheet that we worked on. So then we were like basically going through the whole entire each synopsis, fixing it. We were commenting back and forth in terms of what revisions we should see here. What should we do with this? We should replace this with this. How can we fix this? So it was really like a huge discussion within each chapter. And it was very thorough in terms of, what she expected from me and what I expected from her in terms of once I give this back. So once we did the chapter synopsis and, she gave it back to me, I revised chapter by chapter based off of the new revisions, and then I sent it back to her, and then she loved it, absolutely loved it. So then that's what I've been working on since then. So now once I send off these revisions to her, and depending on what happens from there, then me and her are going to actually go and do a thorough dive into the manuscript and actually do some line edits and polishing and everything. We're trying to polish it as much as possible. So that's why I love the fact that she's very editorial. I feel like I need that. I definitely need that with my writing. So that's really something big for me that really stood out with Heather. And she has such an amazing creative mind. She's a genius. Like the suggestion she made, I just was blown away. Like I feel like my book really, like she helped it get to its full potential. I can say that for sure.
Well, it seems like she's very communicative, and so that seems very helpful. And it seems like it's gone by pretty quickly too. So
yes,
maybe you'll be out there, trying to find that publisher at some point pretty soon.
Could be before the end of the year. I'm just saying. I have my fingers crossed. I haven't been wrong yet.
Yeah.
Gonna keep on with that magic. So let me see. We hear some pops. So I want to see if we have any questions. From anybody.
Some people chatting. Some people.
I think some people know you. Yeah. Maybe a Corey Johnson.
Oh, that's my dad.
What up, Dad?
I think
Tanisha Johnson.
Yes.
That's my mom.
There you go. Hey, Mom.
They are watching, so make sure you blow them some kisses.
Yeah. Yes, y'all.
Mom, Dad, do you have any questions for him?
Yeah.
Go ahead and type those
the time.
Or they can always message me.
That's true. It's just way more fun this way.
So, what would be your advice to those that are in the query trenches right now, and how discouraging that can be, as you know, and how it can get you to a point where you're like, am I even supposed to be doing this? Like, what in the world,
Why do I put myself
why do I get up? And why do I stay up late? And all that, why do I do this? And just kind of, your story in itself is inspirational and motivational.
Huge.
But just kind of, like maybe, I like the stuff you said about, listening to kind of like the pep talks on YouTube. I'm like, I need to like have my cheerleading squad happening, But yeah, I get motivated by that stuff too. And so that's actually a really good piece of advice in that, to just kind of search out that. But any other advice that you might have for those that are like, this is hard.
Right. I know probably some people won't like hearing me say it, because I used to always hear it and I used to be like, really? Don't give up. It's going to happen, and you have to believe that it's going to happen. And when it comes to querying, like, I know how stressful that is, because like I said, my first manuscript, I really thought that was, I thought that was the one. I thought it was a strong story, and I felt like there were agents that wanted it, and in the end, I couldn't get a single full request. So I think the important thing to take from that is that rejection is always going to be part of the process. Mm-hmm. So even if you get rejected, just keep writing. Mm-hmm. Keep fixing up that story or move on to the next story. If anything, what I've told a lot of my writer friends is, maybe something that you can do if you feel like this current manuscript is getting a lot of rejections is look at whatever other ideas or manuscripts that you do have and work on those. But out of that group of ideas you have, find that one idea that just keeps nudging you on the shoulder. Because I didn't really plan to query this book or pitch it anytime soon. Mm-hmm. This was actually going to be like, I was going to go through the first 5 books that I've written, and then I was going to get to this one. While I was working and querying on that past manuscript, this book would not leave me alone. And I kept ignoring it. And then once I finally gave in and gave it the attention that it was calling for, all of this happened. Yep. So make sure that the story that you're at least querying is like the story that is nudging you on your shoulder all the time. If you have a story that's nudging you and it won't leave you alone, then whatever story you're working on now, I mean, maybe some people will disagree with me, but whatever story you're working on now, if it's not that story nudging on you, you need to put that story away. Mm-hmm. You need to work on that story that's bothering you. Yeah. Apart from that, you got to understand that, again, with rejections, even once you get an agent, there's still going to be some rejections you're going to receive, whether it's a rejection on rejection from an editor during sub, whether you have an idea maybe for your book that you want to include, but it might not be the best thing for it, and maybe it's just like, I don't think you should do that kind of thing. So rejection is going to follow you throughout this entire career. So if this is something that you do want to do, you must understand that rejection is a part of it. You have to accept it. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't have you can sulk in it, and you can be upset. And I'm not saying once you get a rejection, toughen up and say whatever. Of course that's nice, and it's easy to say. It's okay to reflect on it, but just make sure that before you decide to put your pen down, make sure you're not making this decision while you're still upset. Mm-hmm. Give yourself a chance to heal from the rejection, and then move forward from it. Yeah. And just believe in yourself. I know, as cliche as that sounds, it's the God-honest truth. Yeah.
There's a reason why it's a cliche. There's a reason.
There was a point in time I thought I was the only one who believed in myself when it came to writing. And even though I had like a small group of support, I felt like I was like my biggest cheerleader. So you have to make sure you're also your biggest cheerleader, because on those days when you receive the rejections, there might be times where people are too busy to, give you a hug, and you have to be able to give yourself a hug sometimes. And it's going to get hard, and it's going to get harder along the way. But, just make sure you just keep writing and keep working on it.
So I have like a side personal question, just because I've never been to New York and desire to so desperately in my life. But you say you have all these like writer friends that you got together, and I just like envision like this wonderful like New York coffee shop, and you guys are all just sitting there, all
talking
writer
shop.
people, and like, is New York riddled with writers? Because I'm just like, I feel like that's where they all are.
The area I came from is upstate New York, so it's closer to Rochester. But there, in Rochester, in Rochester, there are plenty of writing groups. The one that I'm with is with the Rochester area writers and children writers and illustrators. Mm-hmm. That's where I met Keely Hutton, and she is the one who got me into this group. And I went to one of the meetings like pre-COVID, and I was amazed at how many writers were in there. I've never seen so many writers in a local area in one place. They met at a Barnes and Noble, and everybody's like exchanging, first pages and giving each other advice. So it felt like a breath of fresh air, being around other writers. So some of them I message on the side, and we talk and go back and forth. Other writers I've known since I did my first year of college down in Baltimore. One of my friends, I used to write a a screenplay with. His name is Patrick Bailey. Me and him was working on a screenplay that was it needed some work, but it was about the story of Atlantis. We were like, doing our own little twist on that. We actually, just recently spoke about possibly going back to that screenplay and just like fixing everything, because it's been like over 10 years now since we looked at it and worked on it. So now we're just like, okay, now that we've, got all these new writing skills, let's attack it again.
Okay, well then I need to ask you about screenplay writing,
This
because I'm like, screenplay. My daughter is an actress, and so I see scripts come across the desk all the time, and I'm always like, Christy, we should change one of our books into a movie, because we picture it on a screen. So I'm like, let's just write a screenplay. So what is the difference between novel writing, which obviously is very much into like describing the whole like environment and so many beautiful and elegant words, and then screenplay where you just write interior, house, like
interior house day.
Right.
How do you
like, yeah.
Well, I would say with novel writing, we always hear you have to do show versus tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to screenplay, I'm learning that it's more tell than show. So it's okay to actually tell during screenplay writing.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be the language doesn't have to be like all extra flowery, and it sometimes can sound a little bit more like step by step kind of writing. It seems much more simplistic in terms of the writing. And sometimes you have like these little cues you would put in, like a fade in, fade out, interior. You got like the style, of course, that you have to get accustomed to. But besides that, that's the biggest difference, I would say, between a screenplay and a novel, is that it seems like it's more tell than show. The language is simplistic, and
because they say you're supposed to, let the actors then take it and make the character. You're not really, you're like just providing the words,
Right, exactly. You provide the words, and they are the ones who's supposed to like, breathe air into it.
I don't know if I could do
but
it.
it's really fun.
You
I
could
don't
do
think
it.
I could.
You could do it.
I don't know. We do have some questions from your parents, though. They've said, let's pull them up.
Let's go down. There we go.
Right there. Can you speak to what aspiring authors should and should not do as they pursue their careers, which I think you did? And what do you know now that you wish you knew when you got started? So this is a question I love to ask all of the authors, the one previous to you and now you.
That was a good question, Mom. Good job.
Good question, Mom. What would you tell your younger writer self if you could?
Put me on the spot. I will say what I would at least tell my younger writer self is that everything you're doing right now will come into fruition. You're not doing anything wrong, because I certainly felt like everything I was doing was wrong, or it wasn't good enough, or, no one's going to like it. To make sure that I remember to fall in love with my work first before I feel like I need to make someone else fall in love with it. So that's like that whole idea of make sure that you are writing for yourself. So make sure you, love the story before you try and impress anyone. Like, don't feel like there's something that you can't write either.
Yeah, it's also hard when you love it so much, and then you're like, why don't you
love it?
Why don't you love it? So those rejections come a little bit hard. If you didn't care about it, then you're like, it's fine, I don't like it either. It's cool.
Right, exactly. So, just definitely make sure that you keep doing what you're doing and learn as much as you can from not only like other books, like reading other books. Make sure you're also reading books in terms of like on the actual craft of writing itself. Try and, I'm a shy person, but it is also good if you try and connect with other writers and, just socialize. You don't even have to really so much as talk about, your book or their book. Just the idea of having other writers as friends makes the journey feel a little bit less lonely.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I feel like
very lonely. Very lonely. We have each other.
Yeah.
I got each other.
We do.
But a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
So
I always wondered what it would be like to kind of co-write a book, or like I've done it like screenplay wise, and I almost feel like maybe I'm just assuming. I almost feel like it would be easier screenplay wise than actual novel wise, because now I feel like I'll be stubborn. Like, no, I want it like this.
Why did you change that?
Right? No, screenplays. It's not uncommon for there to be multiple writers on a team that write something. I mean, that's not uncommon, but it is uncommon for co-authors on novels because, you take things personally. But I feel like we have a really good we're simpatico. Yeah, just in that, like she has strengths that I don't and I have strengths that she doesn't. And when we put those two together, it like I think individually we might be like,
no, we would flail out of water.
This? How do I describe, like she's got that aspect of it. So we've just always written together. And so I feel like it would help us whenever there is the editorial process, because I think it can be, when a story is really personal to you and then, you have somebody coming back being like, no, that needs to change, that needs to change, that needs to change. And you're like, ow, we already do that to each other. We already hurt each other's feelings.
Yeah,
so we're good.
She called my writing fluffy one day.
I'm like, I had to change it. It was too fluffy.
She was like, fluffy is good.
Fluffy is good.
Never,
Flowery,
ever is fluffy
descriptive.
Right, I would say maybe just descriptive.
Well, yeah,
right?
fluffy came out easier in text.
Words.
But it was good. We worked out.
It's fine. We'll be all right.
I definitely stand firm, like in terms of to other aspiring writers. Like again, do not confuse your determination with, desperation.
Yeah.
Like do research before you send your stuff to an agent or a publisher or whoever in general. Like you have to protect yourself and your work.
It's such. I see so many, and I'm going to ask you like a fun little question after this. But I see so many agents tweeting about it for sure, where somebody gets scammed by some, bad agent because we're all desperate to get that agent, and they've totally messed up their career for at least a couple of years. They've taken so much from them. So I'm glad that you've shared that. Thank you. So people can kind of hear that and maybe take a step back and say, okay, I don't need to flood all of the agents out there. Maybe just a few here at a time. One thing I am going to ask you, says we're all on Twitter. So what's your one just like guilty pleasure, and then also like something that just irks you?
Ooh, guilty pleasure. I really do.
We all like to scroll through the writing community drama, right?
I would say I sometimes follow and watch that whole publishing paid me hashtag and just like watch and see how much some authors are like going like head to head, like, oh, well, I got this, and this. And then I'm just like, it's kind of interesting when I see like some of my favorite authors like show how human they are. Especially when they start like snapping about certain things and they seem frustrated. I'm just like, wow, so you are an actual person. So even though I know I shouldn't really, like that type of drama, is like I literally fish for it on Twitter. Like I try and find the drama to read it because it's almost like reading a good book.
Yeah, you can't take your eyes off of it, right? It's like rubbernecking. Just gotta continue to watch this.
So I like to, look for drama on Twitter and find entertainment in it. I don't share it, but I like to look at it.
There's good characters in there.
Definitely. Especially when some of those characters have history already.
That's true. That's true. One of my favorite guys is the little troll guy they call Gary. You've seen him? He's one of my favorites. He's he's famous.
I'm not on Twitter.
I'll educate. Okay, so real quick, we're going to talk about, because you did go through Pitch Wars. Now, you said you did it with another manuscript. And the only reason we're going to talk really briefly about it is because we want our viewers to know that it opens up this weekend for applications. If mentors have posted their wish list on pitchwars.org. So if you haven't heard anything about it, please do go there and check it out. Our friend RJ here did go through Tell us about your experience, not necessarily like the end result, but like how the process was for anybody who's curious about it.
Okay. Well, if you're very curious about pitch wars, I think it is like a great practice in terms of research. Because when you're querying and you have, all these agents that you want to submit to, the main thing you want to do is research. So I feel like pitch wars is like the perfect opportunity to learn what it means to research, where you're researching all of these mentors who you're going to be working with in polishing your manuscript. So you want to see who's a perfect fit and get you accustomed to that, who's not quite the perfect fit, but still might, you might want to try anyway. So I would say pitch wars helps with teaching you how to research agents, essentially. I say it also gets you prepared for when it comes time to do revisions, when you actually get an agent, because you will have someone who loves your book, but then when it comes down to getting the work done to polishing that manuscript, that's when, that whole fangirling hat and everything comes off, and it's all about business and getting to work. Mm-hmm. That's when things get serious. So you have to be, open to making changes to your book. Mm-hmm. You can't be stubborn about every single thing about your book. You have to be open about something. You can be stubborn about some things, but not everything. So essentially, they're trying to help you polish the work. So I think it also prepares you for polishing once you get agented. So I think it helps you develop your own, process in terms of editing. Maybe even explore other ways you can edit your book, because whatever mentors you're working with, they might have like their own kind of expectations of you in terms of how they edit, how they communicate. So make sure you also check and see, how often will they communicate with you, and, but I feel like it's another one of those great avenues you could take towards getting agented and publishing, aside from doing Twitter contests. And of course, as always, querying is always a great way to find your agent. It's like the most popular way. A lot of people get agented anyway. So even if you don't get into pitch wars, that doesn't mean you can't find an agent, because I didn't get into pitch wars either. Mm-hmm. I submitted for pitch wars. I got a full request for it, but essentially, I didn't get through all the way. But once Matt came around, I did pitch a different book, and I still got an agent without pitch wars.
Mm-hmm. With almost 1,500 tweets.
Yeah.
Almost 1,500 tweets.
Yeah. It's just so awesome. I can't help it. It's just so awesome. Well, RJ, we are ecstatic for you. We have been watching you since this tweet came out, and cheering you on, because I get goosebumps over
I know,
it.
every time I get I have goosebumps.
But I just cannot express enough. Everything that you've said today needs to be heard by other authors who are out there right now, querying, crying, being rejected. Mm-hmm. We all feel it. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming on here today and spending some time with us. And just congratulations.
Yeah.
Now I have to restate, I already did the one that I was waiting for, but now I'm ready for your next tweet where you announce that your book has been sold.
Yeah.
And then we can all jump again. But I just want to see what you're saying.
Hear it here that we're going to say that that's before the start of 2021, because
absolutely, it's happening.
As much as 2020 has sucked, it's actually been really good for you. So let's just keep that going,
Yes. Everyone's like, 2020 sucks. Sometimes I'm like, it's not so bad.
It's all right over here.
It's not so sucky. So when that book comes out, you have to come back on our show and talk about your beautiful masterpiece.
Right, definitely.
All right, well, thank you so much again. I hope that, Callie is good and treats you well. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for joining us as well.
Thank you for all the comments.
All right.
All right, we will see you, my friends.
Take care, RJ.
You too.
All right.
Beautiful story.
That was awesome.
I just can't say enough.
I just can't. I know. That was so awesome. We did mention pitch wars coming up. I wanted to throw up our little Dates right here. Look at that. So starting tomorrow, actually, is when it opens up for writers to submit to the mentors, and there's tons of mentors. So read through all of those for all the different genres out there. And that's open from tomorrow, which is Sunday, to the 1st. And then it closes, and then we'll see who gets chosen. We're gonna throw our name in the hat.
Throw a hat in the ring.
Yeah, that's the thing. Our name in the hat too. Whatever.
The other thing we want to mention is Pit Dark, which is a pitching contest on Twitter, is also coming up. The dates are for October, but they have not been announced. But please, in our comment section, our detail section, you will find the website where you can go and keep checking. Also,
and that's for if you have a dark story. Yeah, dark stories.
Levels, middle grade, YA, adult, all of those are welcome. The other contest that's coming up is by the girls that do Scribbler. It's a monthly box for authors, which has a bunch of goodies. She's got one right here. Yeah. Oh!
This is their box. You get it. It says Right. It's very cool, and you can use it as decorations.
So they're doing a villains contest in October. Please do go to Scribbler.com for more information on their contest as well. So there is a lot of things in the work for authors. And
yes. And our next talk is actually going to be on Halloween, which is very exciting. You will definitely see us in costume. And
I think I took your book.
Where did it go?
Excuse me, one moment ago. I took her book.
Hello. Where'd it go? We are talking to the Lacera team, who wrote this beautiful picture book called Zombies Don't Eat Vegetables. It's hilarious. It's wonderful. This will be kid-friendly.
Yes.
Our children might make a little debut for this talk.
It's got a wonderful message in here about diversity and being different and acceptance and families as well. So.
And it also has recipes. Recipes at the end. So that's also great. So it's going to be on Halloween, in the morning, not at night, so you can, but on Halloween, so that'll be super fun. We're excited about talking with them, but we just want to thank you guys so much for watching us and spending time with us and,
supporting us.
Yeah.
Please do go and subscribe to our channel. Just hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
Also, you can go to Twitter, and we are the Book Bar Authors. And also, please go to RJ's and like it or follow him as well. His information is also down in the details, so you can just click.
In the picture.
I know, you're doing fun.
Yes, so follow RJ, follow us, follow all the writers, because we all need support, and we are so grateful to the writing community and just how supportive everybody already is. So
thank you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful Saturday.
Mwah.
Bye.
Cheers.